very warm welcome. You're watching GRAVITAS with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight on GRAVITAS. Israel continues to pound Gaza with relentless strikes. Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu have held a meeting in Washington, while Israeli officials continued indirect talks with Hamas, hoping for a US-brokered ceasefire and hostage deal. We are unpacking all these developments for you, getting you the key takeaways and the bigger picture. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. Ukraine is grappling with a whole new nightmare, with Ukrainian intelligence warning that Moscow is poised to unleash 1,000 aerial weapons every day. We tell you all that you need to know. We also tell you how Europe's largest port is preparing for a potential all-out war with Russia. All this and more coming up. Funerals, shrouded bodies, prayers amid ruins, debris just about everywhere. This is Gaza today, as Israel pounds the besieged strip with relentless strikes. On Tuesday, casualties were rushed to the Al-Shifa hospital after an Israeli airstrike on Gaza City killed and injured many.
Around 11:30 p.m. last night, we were surprised by a very loud explosion that damaged many buildings, including our home. We rushed out. There were injuries inside the house caused by falling debris from the walls and doors, which landed on the children. Then we heard screaming from our neighbors, so we ran over and found bodies torn apart, including an infant baby girl no older than 4 months.
My children are trembling with fear because their mother became a martyr. I'm still in shock and I can't believe that they are gone.
But as Palestinians die, Trump and Netanyahu sat down in Washington, indulging in self-congratulatory talk in a way and dreaming up a Riviera in Gaza. The two met for several hours, while Israeli officials continued indirect talks with Hamas, hoping for a US-brokered ceasefire and hostage deal. This being Netanyahu's third visit to the White House since Trump returned to power in January. That's more than any other foreign leader, by the way. The meeting was marked by celebrations of US airstrikes on Iran's nuclear sites, and Netanyahu took the moment to nominate Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize.
I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved, and you should get it.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming from you in particular, this is very meaningful. Thank you very much, Bibi.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. It's a great honor.
Netanyahu will stay in Washington through Thursday, with meetings planned with Vice President J.D. Vance, the House Speaker Mike Johnson, the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, In fact, Trump is pushing hard for a ceasefire and hostage release deal with negotiations underway in Qatar. But his vision for Gaza goes far beyond a short-term ceasefire. Remember, back in January, during Netanyahu's visit to the United States, Trump floated a rather shocking proposal: permanently relocating 2 million Palestinians to neighbouring countries, allowing the US to take over Gaza and develop it into the Riviera of the Middle East. And he later walked back on the comment, but the idea was already made public. Arab countries reacted sharply and came up with a counter plan, one that insists that the population remain in Gaza, rebuild the territory, and form a future Palestinian state, one without Hamas in power. But what about Netanyahu? Well, he loves Donald Trump's idea. And when asked about Trump's vision to relocate Palestinians and turn Gaza into a luxury waterfront development, Netanyahu called it a brilliant vision. And on Monday, before his private dinner with Donald Trump, Netanyahu backed the plan, telling the media, I'm quoting here, it's called free choice. If people want to stay, they can stay. But if they want to leave, they should be able to leave, quote unquote. Not just that, he added that Israel is working very closely with the US to identify countries willing to take displaced Palestinians, and that the discussions were already getting close to fruition. Donald Trump, seated across from Netanyahu, simply said, and I'm quoting, something good will happen. Netanyahu's comments, meanwhile, marking his most explicit endorsement yet, backing a plan that could empty Gaza of its people and turn it into a playground in a way for the rich. The proposal has already sparked furious backlash from human rights groups, Arab leaders, as well as US allies, who called it ethnic cleansing under the guise of development. And the White House attempted damage control, walking back on elements of Trump's language. But Netanyahu's support, combined with his rejection of a Palestinian state, showing exactly what kind of peace he and Trump might be envisioning. One where Palestinians are displaced or resettled abroad, perhaps. And it's a stark break from decades of US policy, which has long insisted on a two-state solution and an independent Palestinian state alongside Israel. But Netanyahu says any ceasefire deal with Hamas should not include the recognition of Palestinian statehood. Negotiators are scheduled to meet in Doha later this week. Trump believes a deal could be struck during the coming week, but Netanyahu's endorsement of mass relocation could deepen mistrust among Palestinian negotiators and also derail the progress. The war in Gaza is now in its 21st month. Since it started in 2023, Israel's military campaign has killed more than 57,000 Palestinians, displaced over 80% of the population, pushed 500,000 to the brink of famine. Shifting focus for now, a whole new nightmare unfolding over Ukraine's skies. In a single week, Russian forces have unleashed over 1,200 drones and nearly 1,000 bombs, with the death toll climbing to at least 13 and 67 civilians injured, including children. And now, Ukrainian intelligence has pressed the alarm button, warning that Moscow is poised to unleash 1,000 aerial weapons every day. Take a look.
It's a battlefield. Russia is on the verge of hammering Ukraine with 1,000 missiles and drones a day, a level of bombardment unseen in modern warfare. Ukrainian cities are under relentless attacks. Entire neighborhoods in Kharkiv, Kyiv, Odessa are reduced to rubble, and Ukrainian air defenses stretch to the breaking point.
все было у нас под ролетами.
I took a small stall, started selling candy, but it was impossible. It was very scary, it was very loud, and it always started at 4 a.m. and it was psychologically exhausting. It was very, very difficult in this sense, and so I decided to leave again.
Немножечко выдохнули.
The sheer scale of this impending aerial assault is mind-numbing. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reveals that over the past week alone, Russia used around 1,270 drones, 39 missiles and nearly 1,000 glide bombs against Ukraine, a terrifying prelude to the forecasted daily onslaught. President Donald Trump says the US will have to send more weapons to Ukraine, just days after ordering a pause in critical weapons deliveries to Kyiv.
Mr. President, are you planning to send more weapons to Ukraine?
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons. Yeah, defensive weapons primarily, but they're getting hit very, very hard.
On the ground, Russia's strategic advances are accelerating, adding another layer of grim pressure. Kremlin forces are pushing relentlessly, particularly in eastern Ukraine, aiming for maximum territorial gains. Moscow claims it captured their first village in the Dnipropetrovsk region, signaling a dangerous expansion of their offensive. The battle for key logistical hubs like Pokrovsk in Donetsk continues fiercely as Russia seeks to encircle cities and secure vital ground before any potential negotiation. Simultaneously, Russian long-range drone strikes have repeatedly targeted military mobilization centers, attempting to cripple Ukraine's ability to reinforce its exhausted troops. Outnumbered and outgunned on the battlefield, the Ukrainian armed forces are increasingly relying upon drone strikes to cripple strategic targets deep within Russia. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Switching gears for now, Europe's largest port is preparing for a potential all-out war with Russia. The port of Rotterdam, a key logistics hub in the Netherlands, is reportedly actively designating zones for military shipments and outlining emergency rerouting plans in case war breaks out. And the port officials are reportedly working in close coordination with neighbouring Antwerp in Belgium to streamline the movement of the military vehicles and supplies from allies like the United States, Canada, the UK. The goal is simple: keep cargo flowing while ensuring military readiness. If tensions with Russia escalate into war, and in an interview with the Financial Times, the CEO of the Port of Rotterdam Authority has said that both ports, the Rotterdam and Antwerp ports, are no longer operating solely as competitors. Instead, they are strategizing and planning on the best ways to handle potential surges in military freight. The CEO also said that since not all terminals are equipped to handle such cargo, any massive influx would be split between Rotterdam, Antwerp, and other strategic locations. And this move comes amid a broader European push to prepare for possible Russian aggression. The European Commission is drafting a plan to mobilize around $840 billion to beef up Europe's defense and also lessen its dependence on American protection and build up its own military capabilities. And in response to demands from US President Donald Trump in last month's NATO summit, all allies, remember, agreed to more than double their defense spending target from 2% of the GDP to 5% by 2035. In line with the NATO directives, the Dutch Defence Ministry in May announced that Rotterdam would have to provide space for handling multiple ships carrying military cargo. The Rotterdam port will also reportedly hold amphibious drills multiple times each year, possibly to maintain war readiness. And while Rotterdam has seen military cargo during past conflicts, including during the Iraq War in the early 2000s, this is the first time it is reportedly integrating defense logistics into its long-term infrastructure. Even during the Cold War, by the way, the port reportedly did not have a dedicated military quay. Antwerp reportedly continues to serve as a key port for receiving supplies for US forces stationed across Europe, and this growing emphasis on military readiness is not just limited to the Netherlands or Belgium. NATO's Secretary General has warned NATO members last month that Russia could attack a NATO country by as early as 2030, while the German Chief of Defense has warned that Russia might attack NATO members within the next 4 years, potentially targeting the Baltic states as early as 2029. And the warning was based on Russia's increased military production, including hundreds of tanks annually. Latvia's intelligence service, for that matter, has also flagged signs of escalating tensions, tracking significant Russian troop buildup in the Baltic Sea and growing surveillance activity near the NATO exercises. While further north, Norway released its first national security strategy in May, calling the current threat level the most serious since World War II. The country has even resumed the Cold War era practice of building bomb shelters, the first time the country has done so since 1998. And as tensions in Europe continue to mount, Europe's major ports are appearing to gear up to pivot from commerce to conflict if a war erupts. Shifting focus for now, India is building undersea drone swarms to counter China's maritime threat in the Indo-Pacific. A silent battle is taking shape, one that could decide the future balance of power in Asia. India is taking warfare beneath the seas into the drone age. And according to reports, India's DRDO, or Defence Research and Development Organization, is developing submarine-launched drones, unmanned launchable underwater aerial vehicles. And these drones will be fired from a submarine's torpedo tube, exit underwater, surface stealthily, and convert into aerial drones. Just think about what that actually means. A submarine can remain hidden beneath the sea while its drone soars above the waters, gathering intelligence, jamming radars, or even launching strikes without ever revealing the submarine's position. It is a pioneering initiative, and it is aimed at enhancing the lethality, the intelligence gathering, as well as mission flexibility of the Indian Navy's fleet of submarines. What they essentially represent is a hybrid capability, part underwater, part aerial. These drone systems can be equipped for a variety of missions, including intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, electronic warfare, decoy roles, potentially even kinetic strikes. It could help extend India's submarine power far beyond the horizon. And that's not even all. DRDO is also reportedly working on underwater drone swarms, multiple unmanned underwater vehicles launched from a submarine acting as a mothership. These drone swarms can hunt enemy submarines, detect mines, map the ocean floor, guard harbors, or even launch coordinated attacks underwater, a force multiplier in every sense. The development of submarine-launched systems and drone swarms is part of a broader push by the Indian Navy and the DRDO to integrate next-generation autonomous systems across maritime domains. Why is India investing in such futuristic systems? Because the threat is real. China now has the world's largest navy. It has over 60 submarines and big ambitions to control sea lanes from the Indian Ocean to the Pacific. And not only has China developed underwater drones, it is also on track to develop drone mothership that can release small AI drones collectively. China wants to become a true blue water navy capable of projecting power far from its shores. And for India, countering this means innovating under the sea, where stealth decides who wins and who doesn't. Today, India has around 17 operational submarines, but with these new systems and underwater drone swarms, each submarine effectively transforming into a stealth command center, deploying multiple unmanned assets. It's not just about matching China's numbers. It is about ensuring that India's submarines can remain hidden while dominating the Indian Ocean region. And globally as well, the US Navy is reportedly developing Orca extra-large undersea drones, and China is also building its own underwater swarms. Russia investing in nuclear-powered undersea drones, and they're all investing heavily in autonomous and semi-autonomous underwater platforms to gain a strategic edge in the high seas. India is now part of this race, and as it continues to expand its submarine fleet and maintain deterrence in the Indo-Pacific region. And in a significant push for indigenous firepower, the Indian Army is gearing up to test a newly developed mounted gun system that can fire and relocate in just 85 seconds, designed to avoid enemy counterattacks. This 30-ton artillery system reportedly combines speed with precision. And according to reports, the Indian Army has officially requested the DRDO to provide the mounted gun system, or MGS, for trials across multiple terrains and weather conditions. The vehicle's research and development establishment in Maharashtra's Ahmednagar, under DRDO, will carry out these tests. MGS is a 155mm 52 caliber howitzer fitted onto an 8x8 high mobility vehicle. Capable of firing 6 rounds per minute, it can reportedly strike targets as far as 45 kilometers away and can operate both in desert and high altitude areas with shoot and scoot capability. Just to put this simply, shoot and scoot refers to a tactical military maneuver where artillery or missile units quickly fire at a target and then rapidly relocate to avoid enemy counterfire. The main purpose is to minimize exposure to enemy radar and surveillance systems, which can quickly pinpoint the origin of a launch. Modern weapon systems such as India's Pinaka multi-barrel rocket launcher and the US HIMARS are reportedly specifically designed for this tactic. And the MGS is reportedly based on the indigenous advanced towed artillery gun system, with this mobile variant allowing artillery units to shoot and move before the enemy's retaliatory fire. According to reports, internal trials of MGS in Balasore and Pokhran have showed positive and promising results. Over the past decade itself, India is reportedly aiming to replace older guns with modern artillery systems. And the addition of mobility to these heavy weapons reportedly significantly boosts their combat effectiveness and survivability on the battlefield. And as India moves towards a more agile and equally lethal weapon system, arms like the MGS could play a crucial role in future combat scenarios and wars. Shifting focus for now, there is a new flashpoint in the Red Sea. Today, Germany summoned China's ambassador, accusing Beijing's military of targeting a German surveillance plane with a laser. Germany says its multi-sensor Flying Eye aircraft was on a routine EU mission over the Red Sea when it was suddenly hit by a laser fired from a Chinese warship. This aircraft, piloted by civilians with German military personnel on board, it conducts wide-range surveillance to keep vital sea lanes safe from attacks. This laser incident forced the plane to abort its mission and return to the base in Djibouti. Fortunately, no one was hurt. This is not the first time China has been accused of such tactics, by the way. In the year 2018, US pilots suffered minor eye injuries reportedly after Chinese lasers targeted their aircraft near Djibouti. Then in 2020, a Chinese warship allegedly fired a laser at a US patrol plane just west of Guam. Beijing denied both incidents. But why would a Chinese warship even use a laser? That's what the allegation is. These lasers can temporarily blind pilots, damage sensors, or disrupt surveillance systems without firing a single bullet. It's basically a way to send a hostile message while technically avoiding direct military engagement. What exactly is a laser? Laser stands for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. In simple terms, it's a focused beam of light that can carry immense energy. Military-grade lasers can dazzle or damage optical sensors, blind pilots, and in some cases, destroy drones or missiles. But the bigger question here is, why is China allegedly using laser weapons on German aircraft? They're not at war. While the China-US rivalry is well known, this would be the first reported incident, if it's happened, of China using laser at a European NATO member. And why would China risk diplomatic fallout over such actions if that's happened? Germany calls this behavior completely unacceptable, and for Europe, it may raise fresh concerns over China's growing military footprint, not just in Asia, but along critical trade routes connecting Africa, Europe, and West Asia. The Red Sea is already on edge, with Yemeni Houthis targeting commercial vessels in solidarity with the Palestinians in Gaza, and Israel's multi-front war with Iran and its proxy groups. The EU's mission has been named after the ancient Greek word for shields, by the way. It's in place to protect shipping from attacks, basically, and now with China allegedly targeting European aircraft, tensions in these waters could only rise from here onwards. And before we go on any further, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. The Indian Prime Minister has sent a crucial message at the BRICS summit, urging fellow member nations to unite in safeguarding the supply chains for critical minerals. We get you the complete story. Were the federal cuts a contributing factor to the Texas flood situation in the US? Also, what causes flash floods? We get you the complete lowdown. A swarm of bees caused a flight in India to be delayed by an hour. The incident is creating quite a buzz. We tell you more. All this and more coming up. Our next story is from Pakistan. The political showdown between the jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan and Field Marshal Asim Munir is only heating up. With Khan in jail, his sons are now gearing to enter the battlefield. Here's what's driving the developments. Through his sister, Alima Khan, Imran Khan has ordered his party, the PTI, to launch an all-out anti-government protest starting August 5 to mark 2 years since his imprisonment. Alima said that Khan has asked his party to escalate the anti-government protests. She said that Khan wants PTI's agitation to hit its peak against what he calls oppression, marking 2 years since his imprisonment. Alima Khan says her brother believes the time has come for all Pakistanis to rise against oppression. Listen to this.
इमरान खान के अपने बच्चे हैं सुलेमान और कासिम, उनको ये बता दिया है कि वो अब सुनने को वो भी तैयार नहीं है। हम ही ने उनको रोका हुआ था लेकिन अब वो पहले तो वो जा रहे हैं अमेरिका और वो अपने जो दोस्त हैं उनसे कहते हैं अगर ये जा सकते हैं तो हम भी जाएंगे और हम जाके बताएंगे कि यहाँ इंसानी हकूक के साथ और क्या जुल्म हो रहे हैं उनके वालिद के साथ। एक दूसरा, सुलेमान कासिम ने कहा है कि उसके बाद हम आएंगे पाकिस्तान और वो तहरीक के अंदर अपना हिस्सा लेना चाहते हैं।
Basically his message, if you cannot shoulder this fight, step down. And here's the interesting bit, by the way. She revealed that plans are being made for the return of Imran's sons, Suleiman and Qasim. She said that they too wish to take part in this campaign. Until their return, Alima says they will raise their voices, spotlighting human rights violations in Pakistan while in the US. And she says there is no talk of negotiations. She said that there is only a firm, united push for freedom and rule of law. She also stated that Imran Khan will lead the protest movement from jail and that he considers himself free behind bars, while those outside are the real prisoners. The stakes are higher than ever. Pakistan's politics today boiling down to two names basically: Field Marshal Asim Munir, the army chief whose power spans parliament, the courts, even foreign policy, and Imran Khan, locked up but far from out from the scene. And he still is one of the most popular leaders in the country. It is the former Prime Minister, by the way, who commands the Pakistani streets in a way, the diaspora and his vast digital army of supporters also keeping his voice alive in every way. The timing is no accident. Public frustration in Pakistan is reportedly boiling over. Inflation is biting, repression is deepening. Just weeks ago, Field Marshal Asim Munir met US President Donald Trump in Washington, remember? According to reports, the fate of Imran Khan was also on the table. But Khan's party is fighting on a new front line. The Pakistan diaspora, with post-Muharram protests planned to flood the streets. Pakistan's power struggle may be heading for its biggest showdown yet. Asim Munir commands the state. Imran Khan, even from a prison cell, still seems to command the crowds. And with his sons now stepping in, Imran Khan and his supporters have set the stage for a crucial showdown that will challenge Field Marshal Asim Munir and the Pakistan military's grip on power in a way. Moving on for now, at the 17th BRICS Summit, the Indian Prime Minister sent out a firm, crucial and timely message urging fellow member nations to unite in safeguarding the supply chains for critical minerals and ensure no country uses these resources as a weapon. According to the International Energy Agency, by the way, China currently leads the world in rare earth production, controlling more than 60% of mining and over 90% of refining. But without naming any country, the Indian Prime Minister said, I'm quoting here, "We need to work together to make supply chains for critical minerals and technology secure and reliable. It's important to ensure that no country uses these resources for its own selfish gain or as a weapon against others." Prime Minister Modi's statement coming at a time when there is growing concern globally over the strategic control of minerals like lithium, nickel, rare earth elements, as well materials essential to weapons, electric vehicles, renewable energy, advanced electronics, among others. And the underlying warning by the Indian Prime Minister was also clear, that without collective action, these resources could become major tools for geopolitical leverage. And while the Indian Prime Minister did not call out China directly, the subtext was clear. In recent months, Beijing has tightened export controls on rare earth elements and the magnets produced from them, the consequences of which have been swiftly seen. Automakers in India and Japan reduced output, while the US facing pressure from its manufacturing sector, softened its tariffs against Chinese goods. Minerals like lithium, nickel, rare earths have increasingly become strategic assets, yet despite their importance, global supplies remain rather precarious. Over a decade ago, Western nations faced a similar rare earth crisis in a way. Still, little has been done since. Many Western countries drafted critical mineral strategies but failed to fund or implement them. And today, the result is pretty clear. Fragile supply chains and insufficient reserves. Analysts warn that ending China's dominance in rare earths could take as long as 10 to 20 years and require trillions in capital. And in light of this, Prime Minister Modi's statements underscoring the need for collective global action and preventing any one country from holding the world hostage in a way over these materials, especially those that propel progress. The floods in Texas have wreaked havoc, leaving behind a trail of destruction. With the death toll now crossing 100 and dozens missing, the tragedy has triggered several crucial questions as well over alertness and early disaster warning systems. Texas continues to brace for more rain in the next few days, and across America, people are walking in vigils and mourning the many lives lost.
Yeah, I was also pretty shocked on the gravity of the situation and how big it was, and I wouldn't necessarily expect that our rivers would rise so quickly. And I am concerned about the infrastructure and the need for good infrastructure to be there so that this doesn't happen. And hopefully there's preventative efforts happening in similar areas to make sure nothing to this degree happens.
The White House also calling the floods a national tragedy.
The White House is currently arranging those travel plans. We hope that it will be later this week, likely on Friday, but of course we want to do it at the most appropriate time on the ground for state and local officials. We don't want to interrupt the recovery efforts, but we're planning tentatively for a Friday trip, and when that becomes final, we'll let all of you know, as we always do.
Questions have been raised over whether there were failures of the existing systems in place, such as were there delays in evacuation of Camp Mystic, where 700 girls were camping on a known floodplain on the river there. What accounts for this? Most importantly, was America even prepared for a disaster like this? As per experts, behind all of this could be Trump's ruthless federal cuts that in a way dismantled crucial agencies helping states prepare and respond to extreme weather events and climate hazards. Concerns are mounting that cuts instigated by Trump and his former aide Elon Musk at the National Weather Service and the Federal Emergency Management Agency may have affected forecasting and contributed to the death toll as well. And this includes a proposed 25% cut to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's current annual budget of $6.1 billion, an agency which oversees the NWS, and not just budget cuts, rampant layoffs and struggles to refill key positions have in a way put several critical federal agencies under serious scrutiny. And according to the National Weather Service, about 200 people at the organization took voluntary redundancy, 300 opted for early retirement, and a further 100 were ultimately fired from the service, leading the NWS to lose 600 of its over 4,000 staff. What this resulted in is a huge staffing crisis, with several offices across the country operating without the required hands. However, this is not the first time that Trump's proposed cuts have been making news in the context of disaster response. Last year, on his campaign trail, Trump faced the challenge of weathering yet another storm, Hurricane Helen, which battered parts of North Carolina and Georgia. In response, Trump slammed the Biden administration's federal government for what he described as failures of its response and recovery operation. However, this time around, the onus lying on the Trump administration directly to do some answering for the losses and the widespread death and devastation that the floods have led to, especially as Democrats are reportedly seeking to cash in on this and turn it into a political attack as well. There are crucial questions at this point. And there's also that question that's been doing the rounds. What made the floods there in Texas so deadly after all? What was the point of origin? How potent were they? Most importantly, were they preventable? To begin with, these are no ordinary floods, by the way. Flash floods taking the danger levels many notches higher. Just for context here, flash flooding happens when rain falls fast in a short period of time. So fast that the underlying ground fails to cope with this or drain it away fast enough. But what are the signs? Roads turn into rivers, buildings flooded just about entirely, cars, even people getting swept away. The downpour right at the head of the river water, causing it to swell up within minutes and start flowing at a fast pace. The entire event happens so fast that it usually leaves with less scope for advanced warning.
Flash flooding can happen very quickly. Many times survivors talk about how quickly the water rose. And we see from the observations along the Guadalupe River that this river, which is typically moving very slowly and might only be 3 feet in its water level at a particular location, rose quickly within an hour to a raging torrent of 30 feet of water that was 30 feet high. And that just well outside of its typical banks. That shows how quickly a life-threatening situation like this can escalate, and why it's so important to take immediate action when flash flood warnings are issued.
In Texas specifically, part of the cause behind the flash flooding being attributed to record rainfall in a particularly vulnerable area of the state, especially the Texas Hill Country, also known as the Flash Flood Alley. Thin soil, steep cliffs, narrow creeks, making it especially vulnerable to sudden intense flooding. What's more, warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico rises over the cliffs and hills, which then cools and condenses into heavy rainfall. But then again, what causes these severe floods? A combination of atmospheric conditions that lead to heavy rain, or the rapid melting of snow and ice. The geography of an area also making an area more likely to flood, especially if they are located near narrow and steep rivers and city areas. Are there any ways to stay safe from flash floods? Most definitely. Like early planning and evacuation, going to the rooftop of the building if possible, avoiding attic, and strategies to prevent drowning can be key to help keep yourself safe. Remember, when it comes to natural disasters, preparedness can go a long way in ensuring that major tragedies are averted. India's most enduring maritime legend, the submergence of Lord Krishna's ancient kingdom of Duara, is once again in the spotlight, this time with fresh scientific backing and underwater discovery. Recently, a team from the Archaeological Survey of India's Underwater Archaeology Wing used side scan, sonar and multi-beam surveys to chart a new set of structural anomalies off the coast of Dwarka and Bet Dwarka. The findings, including what officials believe may be the remnants of jetty walls and grapnel-type Harappan stone anchors, they believe possibly part of a long-lost port city. A preliminary field note dated April 16 confirmed the season's first artifacts, which include clusters of stone anchors, copper rings, and an L-shaped segment of dressed stone. These were discovered lying 5 to 12 meters beneath the eastern flank of Gomati Creek, Based on photogrammetric modeling, archaeologists proposed a late Harappan date of around 1800 to 1500 BCE for the masonry. In a first for Indian underwater archaeology, the core dive team comprising a majority of women. The mission is being led by veteran marine archaeologist Professor Alok Tripathi with support from the Ministry of Culture. The ASI launched a 2-week training program in the month of May. Course graduates are expected to join the excavation team in the upcoming seasons. Previous digs in the early 2000s uncovered anchors and cultural layers near the Dwarkadhish temple. And now with sonar pinpointing exact locations and updated dating methods in play, archaeologists believe that they may finally be close to uncovering the truth behind one of India's most legendary cities. And last year, Prime Minister Modi, remember, went underwater and enjoyed scuba diving off the Arabian Sea in Gujarat, offering prayers at the ancient site of Dwarka, which is immersed in the waters, and called it a very divine experience. Climate change is stirring glaciers from Earth's peaks. Thousands of feet of ice vanishing. Scientists now warn that these melting giants may awaken hundreds of dormant volcanoes, unleashing explosions far more powerful than any that we have witnessed. Our next report exploring the dangers that could lie ahead.
The Earth itself is groaning under the weight of a terrifying new threat. Scientists are sounding a grave alarm. Hundreds of dormant volcanoes, long slumbering beneath the planet's icy crust, could soon awaken with an unprecedented explosive force. This chilling prediction, directly linked to our warming planet and its rapidly melting glaciers, signals a potential era of catastrophic eruptions, dwarfing anything in recent memory and unleashing unimaginable devastation globally. For millennia, the colossal weight of glaciers has acted as a colossal lid, suppressing the immense pressures building within the Earth's fiery heart. Now, as our planet warms and ice sheets across the globe retreat at an alarming pace, that colossal lid is lifting. A new study presented at the 2025 Goldschmidt Conference in Prague reveals that melting ice is directly linked to an increase in both the frequency and explosive power of volcanic eruptions. This isn't theoretical. Historical data from the last ice age shows a surge in volcanic activity, as glaciers retreated, with Iceland experiencing eruption rates 30 to 50 times greater than before or since. The mechanism is terrifyingly simple. The immense weight of glaciers pushes down on the Earth's crust and mantle. As the ice melts, the pressure is released, allowing subterranean gases and magma to expand rapidly, fueling explosive eruptions. This planetary threat is immense. An estimated 245 potentially active volcanoes lie directly beneath or within 5 kilometers of ice, particularly in regions like North America, Russia, Antarctica, and New Zealand. Scientists warn that thick glacial coverage over magma chambers is the key requirement for increased explosivity, and the trigger point, glacier retreat, is happening now. This looming threat has two fatal punchlines. First, explosive eruptions would trigger deadly ash clouds and glacier outburst floods, unleashing worldwide havoc. Second, they would spew enormous volumes of CO2 and methane, accelerating warming in a brutal feedback loop.
Let's now tell you about something rather bizarre that happened. In India, a flight was delayed by over an hour. What was the reason? Uninvited guests. What kind of uninvited guests? Well, flyers without boarding passes. We are talking about a swarm of bees. You heard that right. Naturally, this incident has been creating a lot of buzz. After all, when was the last time you heard about bees being the reason for a flight's delay? Now, this was supposed to be a 1 hour long flight from Surat to Jaipur. So a delay of the same amount of time does sting, but the bees were reportedly rather adamant on being there. Smoke was used at first reportedly, and then when that did not work, water was sprayed, which worked in dispersing the tiny flyers. A new Chinese video game has sparked an online debate after soaring to the top of Steam sales charts, a digital distribution platform. The game, which centers on the theme of gold diggers, has drawn both praise and sharp criticism for fueling sexism. Released by publisher Xianfang Studio, the game titled Revenge on Gold Diggers topped sales within hours of its June release. Notably, every gold digger character in the game is female. The game puts male players into scenarios where they are romantically involved with women depicted as manipulative and driven by money. Each female character is shown manipulating men to spend money and shower them with gifts. And what happens next depends entirely on the male protagonist's actions. The game is drawing a lot of criticism for allegedly reinforcing insulting gender stereotypes. However, supporters of the game argue that it serves as a valuable caution against love scams. To avoid further backlash, the game's creators quietly changed the game's name to Emotional Anti-Fraud Simulator instead. The move, however, was not enough to curb the fallout. In a significant development, Mark Hu, the Hong Kong filmmaker who directed the game, is now banned across several major Chinese social media platforms. Meanwhile, the creators of the game are pushing back against the criticism, saying that they never intended to target women, but instead spark what they call open dialogue about emotional boundaries and the grey zones in modern dating. Despite all this debate, sales for the game continuing to soar. It's currently ranked among China's top 10 titles for PC, even managing to surpass Black Myth, Wukong, a game widely considered to be the most successful Chinese game of all time. And the debate around this game is unfolding at a time when China is already grappling with complex issues related to gender and societal roles. Chinese political leaders, including President Xi Jinping, have openly encouraged women to embrace their roles as wives and mothers. At the same time, the state has also been cracking down on women's rights activists, advocating for greater gender equality. North Korea's supreme leader marked his grandfather and founder of North Korea's 31st death anniversary. He made a midnight visit to the palace in Pyongyang to pay his tributes. We're leaving you with these visuals. Thanks very much for watching.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
World is one, and thank you for staying with us. I'm Eric Njoka. Time now for Pulse, the headlines. A fast-moving wildfire advances into Marseille, France's second-largest city. Blaze forces airport shutdown as thick clouds of smoke hover over the city. Israeli military confirms that Iran struck Israeli military sites during 12 days of war. This is the first apparent public acknowledgement that such locations have been struck. A confrontation erupts between Palestinian villagers and Israeli settlers near the West Bank village of Sa'ir. Video of masked settlers with sticks and Palestinians hurling stones goes viral. Prime Minister Narendra Modi gets a ceremonial welcome during his state visit by Brazilian President Lula da Silva at the Alvorada Palace in Brasilia. The duo will strengthen bilateral ties by signing agreements. Lebanon Health Ministry says 2 people killed in Israeli strike. IDF claims it hit a Hamas militant in the Lebanese city of Tripoli in its first strike on